I was 16, 3 days before war was declared. We were all well aware of the atrocities that were being committed by the Nazis. Churchill, the Prime Minister, called for all able-bodied males between 60 and 65 to volunteer for what they called the Local Defence Volunteers. Joined that, got a tin hat and an armband.
How many missions did you do in total?
36. And you see the planes getting hit, bursting into flames. People jumping out. Planes without parachutes on because our clothes were all burning, Bombs dropping on other aircraft, collisions. We could be in a raid with 600 or 700 bombers, night time, flying through cloud. You couldn't see them, no lights on. Even on that one trip, we saw all the different ways their comrades were killed. And thoughts of which way you would go, because 50% of us were killed. It was horrific. It was the worst day in the Scotland's history. 50% were killed, about another 25% were either prisoners of war or were so badly wounded they would never fly again. But just had to go on and live his life as normal as possible. I felt strongly about defending my country. It wasn't heroics. It was a job that we just had to do. We had to defeat the Nazis at all costs.
As someone who's reached 100, what advice would you give to someone my age?
I can tell you something.
Hey Tom, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's a true honour to have you on today. Your remarkable career, your endurance, your profound wisdom you've articulated, it's really incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
Let's begin at the start of your journey. Could you share what your early life was like and what motivated you to join the RAF?
Early life wasn't so happy in childhood and that. Second youngest of 6 children, 3 older sisters and an older brother. And we weren't physically abused, but childhood wasn't happy. There was always a shortage of food, money in the house, and borrow from neighbours. So about 11 or 12 before really things seemed to get better. And then I was 16, 3 days before war was declared. Although we didn't have television, smartphones, we were all well aware of the atrocities that were being committed by the Nazis, not on the large scale that it was, but we were aware of it, and the thoughts of it happening to our country just filled me with horror. And because I was in a reserved occupation, working engineering, I could never be called up to serve in any of the armed forces. However, I did get the chance at the time of Dunkirk, when Mr. Churchill, the Prime Minister, called for able-bodied males between 60 and 65 to volunteer for what they called the Local Defence Volunteers, which later became the Home Guard and Dad's Army. I joined that because a tin hat and an armband, and did training with the army at territorials and that. And because of the heavy losses suffered by Bomber Command aircrew, the government decreed that boys over 18 could volunteer for pilot, navigator and bomber training. So volunteered for that, was accepted, enrolled in the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve, given my service number and put on deferred service. However, at the same time, 1942, the 400 bomber was introduced with 2 pilots. But unfortunately, again, because of the heavy losses suffered, they couldn't sustain this. So they created a new aircrew trade called flight engineer, who would be the pilot's right-hand man. So I received a letter from the Air Ministry inviting me to transfer to this category, which I did. I went down to a testing centre at Doncaster for a week, and 4 days of exams, tests of all kind. Those of us who passed were interviewed on the Friday as to the suitability of our acceptance at the RAF. Passed my exams, was interviewed and sent home on deferred service. And then eventually, invitation to report for duty came, and I reported at Lord's Cricket Ground. All aircrew reported there. We did 3 weeks there, being kitted out, inoculations and that. And then we did a 6-week square bashing course, initial training wing. And then I was sent home on leave for 7 days.
Could you describe the training experience in the RAF and how it shaped you?
We'd been in Home Guard. I was used to the quick march and all that sort of thing. It was okay. And then I was sent home on leave to report during the engineering training school. Arrived home that night, and my mother had just received a telegram around 6 saying that my brother, who was also a flight engineer, had been reported missing. So I had 7 days leave and then reported to this training station at St Athens in South Wales, where I did about 9 months training, passed out as a sergeant flight engineer, sent on leave, and then trained with experienced crews on 400 bombers. When I was qualified, to fly as a flight engineer. We were sent to Acaster Malbus in York, where we would meet our crews, because the 6-man crew had been flying and training in twin-engine bombers, mainly the Wellington. It was the most haphazard way of selecting crews. Select the 6-man crew and just put them in big hangars, and they mingled, mixed around, and sorted themselves out. And I would say it was about 99% successful. However, the pilots came in. This pilot walks straight up to me, asked if I had a pilot. I said no. He says, I'm Pat Gillis. I would like him to be my engineer, which I accepted. He was Australian. I met the crew shortly after, and it turned out to be an absolutely fantastic crew. We went back to the heavy conversion unit that I'd been on and did training on the 400 bombers, and then reported to our squadron, which happily was Australian Squadron 466. So we reported to that, the crew, ready for operations.
What are your most vivid memories from the time you had within the RAF?
Unfortunately, the squadron historian said that our first operation was the most horrific day of the squadron's history. It was going to be a daylight raid. We only had 2 more ops to do to finish that tour. When you went on ops, you wrote your last letter home, you had your last meal, went to the briefing room, and then went to the crew room to get your escape kit, your parachute, etc. Went out the aircraft and put the key in the door, opened the aircraft, and got in, took off, and flew alongside Charlie, who were on our starboard side, slightly ahead. We flew all the way to Germany with him. As we neared the target, I saw Charlie get hit and smoke and flames come from it. I saw 2 crew jump out and the parachutes opened, but the third one who jumped out, it would jump a burst of flak off, because floating past me was a torso. And then just after that, the plane blew up and I was blank for 5 minutes. The next thing I remembered was the wireless operator was calling from his station towards me. I switched on my intercom, said to Pat, the pilot, "What's never leaving his position for, Pat?" He says, "Tom, are you all right? I've been trying to contact you for 5 minutes." I said, "Yes, I'm all right." He said, "Is the port in there okay?" And I looked at my panda, and it wasn't. There was a red light on, so I shouted to him to feather it, which meant stop it, reduce the chance of it bursting into flames. I could not remember where it was at 5 minutes. I was sitting on top of oxygen bottles. I'd been physically sick. And then as we're flying around, see Charlie just blew up. There was only one survivor, that was a flight engineer. And then within minutes, there was a plane from our squadron, and the rear turret was all shot away. Rear gunner was missing. Found out later there was a burst of flak. So we went on, dropped our bombs. Of course, we only had 3 engines, so we're just staggering behind the main bomber stream. And then as we neared the German coast, there were 6 Hurricanes picked us up and flew around us till we reached the English coast. When we landed, there's a hole in the port being the size of a house door. How it missed all the controls, or even missed us, I don't know. But the ground crew told us the next day that there were 33 flak holes in the plane. But I remember jumping down on the ground thinking, God, I'll never be able to do another 29 of these. But I did 36. It was horrific. I had a nightmare, but all the crew did. But just had to go on and live his life as normal as possible. But it was the worst day in the squadron's history. I never, ever dwell on it, the horrors of war. But it's at the back of my mind, and I can remember it as if it was yesterday.
So how did you manage to overcome those fears?
I would say the fear left me, because even on that one trip, we saw all the different ways your comrades were killed, and thoughts of which way you would go, because 50% of us were killed. But you just had to get on with life. When I put the key in the door, training took over, because you had to concentrate on your job. Every crew member had every second over there. Your survival depended on that. Fortunately, you had a fantastic crew. Great skipper, very strong, capable pilot, but very firm, but friendly. And we used to have regular discussions and meetings about what had gone wrong. I was very lucky to have such a good crew, but our lives depended on each other and we had great trust in each other. But yeah, the fear just left. You'd come back to me when we got near the target area, and you'd see the planes getting hit, bursting into flames, people jumping out, burning, planes blown up. And there's a lot of what we'd call friendly fire now, bombs dropping under the aircraft, collisions. You could be in a raid with 600 or 700 bombers, night time, flying through cloud. You couldn't see them, no lights on. And yeah, we once were very lucky. I just managed to see it was a dirty big Lancaster. It seemed as if it was running about 6 feet or coming towards us. He missed us, fortunately. But these things happen, you couldn't avoid it.
What strategies did you and your comrades use to cope with the stress and the challenges of those 36 operations?
You get the 9 days leave every 6 weeks because of the stress. But the only hope with it was just living life as normal on the squadron, playing football, Australian rules football, which I played once, never again. Trying to live life as normal as possible. You had so much to live for, but in the chance way, you probably have to die for it in the same time. The way I felt was it was a job that we just had to do. We had to defeat the Nazis at all costs. The consequences were too evil to think of, and we knew more and more as they all went on. The type of atrocities are being committed, and the thoughts of that happened to my wonderful country and my loved ones. I just had to do it. And even though we're all volunteers, and we could have any time said we didn't want to fly any longer, I could be ready to take off on the runway and said, Pat, I don't want to fly anymore. In fact, we all had to stop the flight, come off the runway, and I'd go in front of a view panel, wasn't a court-martial, try and talk you into staying on, but the crew wouldn't have you back anyway. If I had done it, I would have been reduced to the ranks, sent back to my job on Civvy Street as an apprentice engineer, but it was a very small percentage. I think it was about half a percent, maybe should take that. Probably took a lot of courage to do it, I don't know. But I just felt I had to do it, I had to beat them.
How did you feel and what were your thoughts when the war finally came to an end?
Funny enough, I can just go back to finishing our tour. We had a fantastic relationship with the ground crew. We used to go out and do the pre-flight, post-flight texts, and then I used to sit with Pat. The engineer sat with the pilot, taking off and land. And we'd all decide we were going to take them out for a night out. But the next morning, I thought it was just me. I just felt absolutely deflated. I don't know what it was. You probably see it was adrenaline out. I don't know that these days, but we just couldn't face it. And we told the crew, the ground crew, give them our money and told them to thank them for what they'd done for us. But we all felt the same. It was, and Pat wrote in his book how he felt the same. And he felt on top of the world when we finished our tour. But the next day, and it was a thought for him that the crew would all be woken up and sent back to different stations. There was a strange feeling, but I was alive.
Knowing that only 50% of your group returned, how did that impact and shape you and your perspective?
50% were killed. About another 25% were either prisoners of war or were so badly wounded they'll never fly again. So really, only 1 in 4 came out unscathed. So I consider myself very lucky. I've had wonderful years, a wonderful life, wonderful marriage, family. Thank God every day for us until and survived.
Can you discuss the impact of service on your marriage, and can you share more about your marriage?
It was a wonderful marriage. We met the first Christmas of the war at a church dance. He was 15, I was 16. And then when I volunteered for the RAF, got married, had 70 wonderful years. I have 3 children. I can't really call them children. The oldest one, but 79 this year. We're 2 sons and a daughter. And they love each other as much as mum and dad love them. I've got everything in life going for me. Just enjoy every day, and I never get depressed. I'm in a care home now. It's a fantastic care home. Holly House, Washington. I have great peace of mind. I feel so safe and secure, and the staff are absolutely fantastic. So I'm very happy. I get out quite a lot. I'm just enjoying life with family and friends. Mary died 10 years ago, and it was terrible for 2 years. I used to be shouting and crying for her. Mm-hmm. But now I just feel a love all around me. I never feel sad or lonely. Enjoy each day. I always find something to do.
With the recent commemoration of D-Day, could you share your memories of that significant day?
I remember it vividly. We trained with boom shanks and wooden rifles at first. But even at that age, at 16, I felt strongly about defending my country. It wasn't heroic. I felt strongly about defending the country.
What are your thoughts on the current global conflicts we see today?
It happens to me very much when I think of First of all, Russia invading Ukraine. When I think of what the Russians went through, they were terribly pounded by the Germans. I think of Putin and his family would experience, and then for them to inflict it on another country with only one life to live, I hope that with two other troops from there, let them get back to peace for living. And it saddens me extremely with Israel or attacking citizens of Gaza. I know what they went through. They know what they went through. I mean, some were still alive from the 1930s, and yet they inflict the same kind of measures onto the people who've got innocent men, women, children being killed. They can talk about it. They'll finish up with talks. Why can't they do it now? I know what Hamas did was wrong, but there was no way to return it on such a scale.
The world has changed significantly since you grew up. So what do you believe are the main factors that's driving these changes?
In my time, we all cared for each other. We helped each other when we could. Now it's all just self-live. I can't generalize, but it's a big percentage of the population who live that kind of life. Values in life. 12-year-olds killing somebody with a machete. Which feel me. But that's life. Family life's a big thing. Values in life have changed so much.
As someone who's reached 100, what advice would you give to someone my age in hope of reaching that milestone, and what do you envisage the world may look like then?
I would like people to have the wealth that they have today. Poverty in my time was terrible. Boys in our class walked to school in bare feet in the snow. That was terrible, poverty. I've lived a life just being nice to people, kind to people, help them if you can, and I've put it into practice. To get it back 1,000-fold, and it costs nothing. I don't hate anyone. I love everyone. I don't say I like everyone. But just be nice to each other, kind.
Having lived a century, what is the most important lesson you've learned over these years?
I'm a Christian. I live by God's 2 commandments. Love God, love your neighbour. And if you love anyone, you can't kill them, you can't steal from them, you can't do anything unkind to them. And it's simple. You can't like everybody. But live and let live. Live your life without doing anything else to eat anyone.
When you look into the future, what do you think it will look like?
It could be a conflict in 2,000 years. I suppose there'll always be there somebody wants something wrong to someone else. I don't think I ever would get rid of that, but it's like people think of the alternative, peaceful, live and let live, each to his own. I've had it rough, I've had disappointments. None of it we've suffered being self-inflicted, but I've had disappointments, rejections, and everything. But you just accept it, where your life is, and get on with it, make the most of it. I'm very happy and content with life, always happy, for the last 90 at least.
What advice would you give people for dealing with challenge and hardship?
But when things hit you in life, can you change it? Can you put it right? If you can't, and most times you can't, you just accept what's happened to you, whether it's an illness, lost job, or whatever it may be, and just make the most of it. Just get on with life. To think of the good things that are happening to you in life. Maybe easier said than done. And there are millions like that in the world, but unfortunately, some things have been badly done to them. But we've all gone through those periods in life. We just get on with it, accept it, make the best of it. Think of the good things you've got going for you. My son, Peter, he's the oldest one. I was out in Egypt after the war, and I just received a photograph from when he was 6 months old. About 3 days later, I got it from Mary saying he was desperately ill. He had bronchial pneumonia, which was a killer then. They granted me a compassionate post, in which I was going to go straight home. I made 2 days for a flight, got home. Peter was in hospital by then. He was 7 months old. He had bronchial pneumonia from the Children's Hospital in Gateshead. And there was a sister waiting for us when we went in. She said, Mr. and Mrs. Davidson, don't hold out my trophy little boy. It's very serious here. Anyway, he was given penicillin. Penicillin didn't come on to health service to about 48, 49, but only the armed forces were supplied with it. It saved his life. 7 months old, when he was 4-year-old, he was walking awkward. I forgot what they called it now, but they put a steel plate in his leg when he was 21. Now, what's happened to him since he's 78? He's had 2 false hips, one when he was 39, one when he was 49. The 39 was replaced 2 years ago. We had 2 elbow joints, but had to replace them. He's got 3 inches with osteoporosis. He has celiac disease. The fact that he suffered so much, and yet he did have a degree left school 16 when he finished up as a senior vice president with the world's largest insurance brokers, Marsh McLennan. So he's talking about adversity. He's had all that to contend with. And yet he's the same attitude, accept what you've got, make the most and get on with life. He's a great believer, not just accept what you've got.
Do you believe we need to face adversity? And do you think it's necessary for personal growth?
You can't run away from it, it's there. Everybody suffers some kind of adversity in life, even I. Not self-inflicted, family or just as Eddie's bad, but not quite as bad as Peter. He's heart-frightened. He's just had an operation on his foot, yeah. We'll all suffer adversity sometime, right? And if you can't change it, if you can't do anything about it, just accept it. Do what you can. If you can't do anything, then just get on with the good things you've got going in your life.
Over the past century, you've witnessed immense advancements. Which ones have particularly surprised and impacted you the most?
When I started school, we had a slate and a crayon that was saying, now here I am at 100 years of with my iPad on the internet. And calculation, you just get the answer you don't have to think about it. It's such a good thing. But there's been such vast changes in, and I would say all of them are good if they're used correctly.
When discussing the operations and the fear, I guess, that you faced, could you share more about the overall nature of warfare and the camaraderie amongst your peers?
In most cases, Army, Navy or Air Force, your life, your safety is dependent on your comrades, not just yourself. You can't just look after yourself. You look after each other, look out for each other. It's essential to have a camaraderie and trust in each other. And I suppose if Britain had to go over to war again, I would hope that it would be sufficient in this country to be able to cope with all that. Still a lot of good people in the world, young and old.
Longevity is a hot topic, especially in regions like the Blue Zones, where many people live to your age and beyond. I guess, what secrets from your own experiences would you like to share for living a long and healthy life?
Lifestyle, healthy food, everything in moderation, exercise, a lot of exercise. I think peace of mind. That's a lot. I don't know psychology how it does, but I went for a hospital checkup, nothing serious. And the consultant said, I would like to know the secret. He said I could make a fortune out of it. I said, I wish I knew myself, because everyone asks me, everyone. I don't know, just everything in moderation. And I can tell you something, it might come over as me being arrogant, which I probably am anyway, I don't know. But I'm in awe of no one. I respect everybody, great respect, but if the Pope was sitting there in place of you, I treat him the same as you. I respect people for it, yeah, but we're all just individuals who are being born in our separate lives. There's a lot of pain goes down there. I don't know if it has anything to do with it. But I was interviewed by BBC Two last year, and at the end of the interview, he said, what do you think's made you the man you are today? I said, what do you mean? He says, before I walked in the door, he think I was your friend. And what I said, the same thing to you? I said, I don't know. And I told him. I said, it probably comes over arrogant when I said, but I'm the least arrogant. I walk away from Angkor. Anything like that. Just have respect for everybody's reason.
What achievements or aspects of your life fill you with the most pride?
Wonderful life, mate. I was so lucky to meet her with such high values, out the truth to life, who suffered a lot of pain, but never, ever complained. I look at her photo every day, Mary. I was so lucky to have you.
I could talk to you all day, Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure. I guess to close out, what are your key thoughts and takeaways would you like to leave with our audience?
If you believe in integrity, you always treat people well. You always do things that you're not ashamed of, even if there's nobody else around. I think integrity is a big part of content and peace of mind.
Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.